Yo, what's up everybody? So in last week's video, I said I was looking forward to making some Hunter x Hunter videos in the future, and this is the first of them. And this is the obligatory spoiler warning for the series, so if you haven't seen the show or read the manga, I suggest you do so, you won't regret it. Now into the video. When we talk about power systems in anime, we might think of Ki from Dragon Ball, Chakra from Naruto, or Bankais from Bleach. One that inevitably comes up is Nen from Hunter x Hunter, and there's a good reason for that. Nen is one of the deepest and most diverse power sets in anime, and it allows for a lot of creativity on Togashi's part when it comes to giving characters their individual abilities and how the fights play out. Nen is fundamentally made up of 4 parts: Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu. Ten being the technique of controlling and regulating the flow of life energy, or aura, from the body. Zetsu, a technique where the user withdraws their aura completely into themselves. Ren, the release of a larger amount of aura to enhance one's abilities or for Nen techniques. And Hatsu, the unique abilities that the users create by utilizing the previous techniques. One thing that helps distinguish Nen from other shonen power systems is the fact that it's not solely predicated on the power of the user, although at times that certainly is a factor, especially later in the series. By and large, however, it's more about how people use their abilities in a clever way or how they can use their opponent's abilities or own minds against them. Because of this, a lot of fights are set up like games of chess, with each combatant trying to outplay the other. Board games or even video games are actually apt comparisons to the Nen fights in the series because Togashi himself is obsessed with games. This comes across heavily in Hunter x Hunter when we take into consideration all of the rules that are set up in every arc and the rules of the Nen system itself. At times the series is almost like an RPG, with characters leveling up and coming to a deeper understanding of Nen and the world around them, and each of the categories representing different classes within the game. We're also given numbers and measurements a lot in the series, whether it be how many doors to the Zoldyck estate a character can open or how much Nen a particular attack takes to pull off, which only further solidifies the RPG-like nature of the power system. This might sound like it limits the power system somewhat, with each person falling into a particular category, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Togashi uses these limitations to his advantage when crafting a character's abilities and being extremely creative with it. Unlike with Dragon Ball, where the characters just kind of power up and get stronger to defeat the villain, or Naruto, where by the end of the series it was whoever had the bigger Rasengan or Chidori that won the fight. In Hunter x Hunter, it's how these abilities are applied. Since not every character can be an enhancer, the most balanced and combat ready class, they'll have to devise their own set of skills, some of which may not even be combat oriented. Their abilities, therefore, are defined by their personalities and their needs within the world. A lot of characters are not focused on fighting, and their Nen reflects that. Take Cortopi for example. His ability is to make copies of objects and to track them. Not a terribly useful ability in the heat of combat, but invaluable for the Phantom Troop when they're pulling off a heist at the York New City underground auction, making him an indispensable member of the Spiders as stated by Shalnark. Or take Hisoka, one of the deadliest characters in the series, and his ability Bungee Gum, based on, you guessed it, rubber and gum. It doesn't sound that impressive, but it's his application and use of the ability that makes it absolutely devastating at times. It's made so powerful because of how deviously he deploys his bungee gum, and how he uses the rules of Nen to his advantage. His fighting style reflects his own sadistic, pervy, sexy, oh my. Where were we? Yes, Hisoka's fighting style reflects his personality perfectly. And that really goes for everyone. Gon's fighting style is straightforward, reckless, and overwhelming. Killua's is fast, efficient, and as stylish as he is. Look at that outfit. Morel's is calculated, chilled, and it's always 420, baby. Basically, in the world of Hunter x Hunter, Nen is what you make of it, no matter which of the categories you fall into. And to master any one of its abilities takes an incredible amount of time and effort, combat-centric or not. Along with all the great abilities Nen can bestow upon an individual, it can also act as a double-edged sword, yielding great power but with potential risks. One of the best examples being Kurapika. He places a condition on his Nen that allows him to be almost unstoppable when fighting the Phantom Troop members. But if he uses his Chain Najelu on anyone else, he dies. Again, it's kind of like in an RPG whenever you use a really powerful move and your character gets hurt too or has some status effect put on them. Except Kurapika's heart gets pierced by a floating Nen dagger that he implanted in his own body. Totally the same thing. And again, this exemplifies the gamey risk-reward factor of the power system and how everybody can set it up to suit their particular needs. The Nen system is all about individuality. There's no ultimate technique or one ability that everyone's striving towards, which helps keep everyone on their toes as no one really knows what they're getting into when facing a new opponent, making every encounter a risky affair. Later in the series, we get to see one of the preeminent users of Nen in action when Netero goes up against Meruem, the king of the Chimera Ants. Not only does this serve as a great spectacle and as a climactic battle, it also serves to establish the power ceiling for the power system. Since Netero is one of the most powerful users of Nen and Meruem is basically the ultimate life form, we see the system at its most destructive here, and now know just how powerful the characters can potentially get. Meaning we probably won't get the nasty power creep that tends to make its way into shonen series, given how tightly Togashi generally writes his series. But this fight just shows two characters who tend to use brute force to fight. If someone arrived with a tricky ability that was a hard counter to either of them, you could make an argument for them winning the fight instead. And this all serves to make every fight a unique experience to watch, and to make every character stand out. For a series about people trying to set themselves apart and who are trying to find their place in the world, Hunter x Hunter's power system fits perfectly into the narrative. That narrative being people forging their own paths or achieving long-held goals. Whether that be Gon finding his father Jin, Killua finding his self-worth after years of abuse at the hands of his family, or Hisoka finally getting that good, hard fight he's been looking for. So we've talked about the mechanics and how unique every person can make their Nen, but what about what drives them to create their specific abilities? With someone like Gon, we can point to his childish and utilitarian outlook on the world, and it makes sense that he would base his Nen on a rock, paper, scissors game. It reflects his personality well. But what about someone like Killua? Killua's electrical abilities are derived from his transmuter Hatsu type, where he can change the properties of his aura. Fair enough. But we learn that you have to be intimately familiar with the substance or property before you can start to imitate it. Meaning Killua had been exposed to this kind of torture from a very young age, and he had internalized this abuse. Throughout the series, we see how his family has a real hold over him, and how he struggles to escape from their influence, especially his brother Ilimis. But through his adventures with Gon, and learning about Nen, slowly but surely, Killua begins to break free and carve his own path through life, becoming stronger and more independent. When he begins to develop his Hatsu, we see that Killua has turned his traumatic childhood into a powerful tool that he can use to combat others with. And there is another aspect to Nen that we haven't touched upon and is often overlooked. When Wing first introduces Gon and Killua to Nen, he talks about Nen of the Flame. A more philosophical and meditative aspect to the art, but it's wholly related to the power system. In this case, Ten is to focus the mind and think of your goals. Killua didn't want to be an assassin anymore. Zetsu is to put these goals into words. Killua tells this to Gon, and he says he wants to live his own life. Ren is to intensify the will. Through their training and growing friendship, Killua becomes more self-assured and begins to forge his own path and develops his ideals. Hatsu, to put into action. By the end of the anime series, Killua is his own person, and he's broken the hold his family had over him. He now sets out on his own journey of his own accord, no longer having his life planned out for him. Killua has overcome his trauma and is making his way in life. And this is exemplified through his Nen. And this is a positive spin on the traumatic aspect of Nen, but we do see examples of the opposite with the likes of Gon and Crollo using their Nen in a different way. I'd like to save that topic for a more in-depth look on how Nen can be used for good or ill, so do stay tuned for that video in the future. So this has been a brief look at the Nen system, and it really is a system that is as flexible and diverse as its cast of characters, and the only limitation is their imagination and what Togashi can come up with. Here's hoping that it continues to write and expand upon the series, because Hunter x Hunter is one of the best. So if you agree with me or think I've missed anything or have anything else to add, do so down in the comments, start a discussion. Don't forget to like and obliterate that subscribe button. Until next time, this has been Joe with Chronic Lore.